Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Shaughnessy, and I am here with my cohorts from the transport team. Got Erica Cho on board, Sean Stevenson, Yaron Lynn, Ian. And Ian and I just came from the session that I presented. And again, thanks, Ian, for that. And Sean had joined us earlier on Ian's session on securing mail flow. And Erica and Yaron are also illustrious members of our team on the transport team. And we are here to answer any questions that we possibly can around mail flow, including the mail flow assets within the EAC. Erica is, owns most of that and makes use of us in the different aspects of it. And Yaron is here in a lot of the back end work on the mail flow rules or transport rules work. Then she works with Eric on coordinating on that, as well as a number of other things. And then Shawnee and I, cover a smattering of other aspects, both in the EAC as well as in the UI. So pretty much anything you want to talk about with mail flow. One thing that we aren't necessarily experts at are things like anything to do with EOP, like the Defender or SPF, DKIM, DMARC. We can talk about that a little bit, but that's not our big ballywick there. So just to keep in mind, we're happy to try and answer if we can, but be patient with us if it kind of falls a little out of our ballywick, and we can look to find somebody from those teams to help answer those questions in a subsequent session. All right. Um, Anyone have any questions? I guess we can either ask questions in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and we can call on you, um, or we can go from there. Oh, I had talked about a solution for the 30 message limit timeline. This is a problem for a word mailing. Yeah, this is just on the drawing board right now, or on the whiteboard basically. So I wouldn't be able to commit to any timeline for any type of reporting on the 30 messages per minute limit for reporting for that at this point in time. This is a problem for a word mailing. I see. I see, like a word mail merge type of scenario. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think one of the things, probably that's right now the recommendation for such things is try to have the application, or break up the mail merge to kind of slow it down. I mean, in this particular, a lot of times it's an application, and so we recommend having the application kind of slow things down a little bit, because just so you all know, by the service agreement, this starts to fall into the bulk mail type of category. And we're really, at this point in time, we don't officially support bulk mail, or bulk mail is not officially supported. So if you're hitting that limit, then it's quasi kind of running into the bulk mail potential category. And we would generally recommend either kind of addressing that with your app by slowing it down, or maybe look to a third-party service, or you could look to, I think maybe Azure Communication Services, might now have an offering that's targeting that a little bit more. Sean, do you know anything about that at this point in time? I don't know if ACS is looking to provide the kind of a bulk mail offering, but I think you might know a little more about that. Yes.
So yeah, and so bulk mail, I think we can split it up into just high volume mail and specifically marketing mail. And our customers will never be allowed to send marketing mail via M365. We need to protect our IP reputation for person-to-person communications. For the line of business, high volume scenarios, we are working on a solution ourselves that would be integrated into the Exchange Online M365 experience. So that is something we're actively working on, but with no ETAs. The solution through ACS is more developed for Azure developers. So customers who maybe have some in-house developers who are creating applications that would then use their REST API to send out high volumes of emails using the greater Microsoft suite of products. And they have been asked about supporting SMTP endpoints that would help solve the problem. So there may be a few options for high volume SMTP or specific clients trying to send emails in the future. But at the moment, based on our fair usage shared service, we've set those limits at the 30 messages per minute and 10,000 recipients per day limits.
Yeah, hey, I want to kind of just quickly address Thorsten's has a question or it mentioned about, even a pay-as-you-go model for this, type of large or high volume mail would be better and give us the possibility to get rid of other systems, not including mass mailers, newsletters, etc. Yeah, so we do, as I had mentioned, kind of alluded to, I can't really give you any particular details on it quite yet, but we are looking at a solution for or an offering, that may or may not consider, pay as you go. I'm not quite sure how we would consider. We're not quite sure how we would consider the licensing model for such, but to offer something that can help address some of these needs, for large, high volume mails, mailing, so that you can get off of either an on-prem system or whatnot. But as Sean pointed out, some of the distinctions and the clarity around how that particular offering will be positioned, it's still work in progress, and as is the technical part of things. And so we're not going to really be able to talk much more about it, for at least another half a year, I would say. So I wish I could give you more details about that, but we're still in the fomenting process. Clean them up. Tim asked the question, are we add server IPs to a receive connector for relay? It would be great if you could add a description field to each IP address so that in 3 years' time we can clean them up without guessing what it was for, with a thumbs up on that. That's I totally get that. That's a great suggestion. Being able to manage those types of things, both in the short term and then longer term for cleanup. Cleanup is probably, one of the biggest things that it can be really challenging. So that's a great idea. Thank you for sharing that. We will make a note of it for sure. Thomas asked a question about connector attribution. If we have a third-party mail appliance in front of an Exchange server and it does not, oh gosh golly, this one I can talk to. In front of an Exchange server and it does not modify the MS Exchange headers, can we have an inbound connector of type on-premises with cloud service enabled? Mail enabled activated. Okay, maybe I can't talk to it quite so readily as I thought. Let me think about that for a second. Connector attribution, if we have a third party in front of an email and Exchange server, it does not modify the Exchange. Doesn't modify it. Can we have an inbound connector of type on-prem? If the appliance is if the third party mail appliance, if that's something that's hosted, if you're hosting that, and it's part of a gateway on your system, then I believe that the on-premises with cloud services mail enabled activated is the way you would do that. If the third party, usually for the server, I'm sorry, for a smart host service, like, let's say Proofpoint, or if you're using, say, SepMail as your third party service, then typically we're going to, it's recommended that a partner um, partner connect or a connector of type partner is used instead, um, rather than on premises. But the cloud services mail enabled will preserve the should preserve the headers in what sounds like your case. What is the timeline when EXO will support bulk mailing? I think I talked about that real briefly. Right now can't really give you much of a timeline, but we hope that maybe in about a half a year, by mid next year, we will talk more about it, and have a more um, dates and things that we can share with you, as well as provisional characteristics of those of the offering. Are there plans to expand the max size for user inbox rules beyond 256 KB? For inbox rules, we're the transport team. We don't actually handle inbox rules. That's handled by our friends over on the store team. And I don't know. If you're talking about transport rules or mail flow rules, is that the limit that we have, Yaron, for transport rules, 256 KB?
Nope, that's specifically for inbox rules.
Thank you, Yaron. Hello, Seattle, 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 Seattle. Okay, yeah, for inbox rules. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. We don't, yeah, don't know the answer to that because we don't own inbox rules.
It would be very nice for some of us as well to have that. Don't worry. So I'll
Sean's in favor.
I'll take that up and go ping our Outlook folks to just see if there's a solution there, because yeah, I have too many rules myself.
Very good. Well, you've got an advocate in Sean here, Todd, and that's half the battle sometimes. So thank you, Sean, for taking that up and caring about it.
Kevin, I'm almost sure that mailbox transport rules also have the same limit, because I remember getting errors when they created when they added a lot of users into the transport rules as well. So I think
there is some
256
limit.
same limit.
Is that
So
is that correct?
Sorry, there's an echo, but I can speak the transport rule limits. So for the maximum number of transport rules, we have 300 rules, and the maximum size of an individual rule is KB, and then the character limit is 20 KB.
You could also probably put that in the chat just to make it crystal clear for everybody.
Yep. So we don't advise. There's no plan to increase that limit. Because
okay, so the three different limits.
That, most customers deem that this limit is more than enough. And so if you are having trouble and are reaching those limits by any means, we recommend either using a dynamic distribution group or DL, or even custom attributes when you're setting those rules, as opposed to listing every single email address or contact in that rule itself. So if you're using a dynamic distribution group, you'll find more flexibility in the rule limit.
Great. Thanks, Yaron. And then whatever you did to get rid of your echo seemed to work, so that's awesome. Although it was kind of fun hearing you in echo. You sound really good. A little reverb. Everyone sounds better with reverb, right? Thorsten asks, where exactly are the 30 mails per minute and 10K recipients per day? I'm not sure what exactly fits that CRM on-prem sender. I'm not sure what the question is. Where, what do you mean by where exactly? Do you mean where is it documented? If you can clarify that, Thorsten, I'd appreciate that. Changing the MAC for an EQR more than 8K. Yaron already mentioned that. Those limits are for Exchange Online mailboxes. It does not cover relaying through EXO from on-premises servers. Oh, okay. All right, Sean, you're on top of that. Thank you so much. Why are some mails ignoring centralized mail flow setting? There's an outbound connector with a star at use of connector. Mail flow. I see mails on a daily basis that ignore this setting. Outbound connector with a star at use of connector under reports, mail flow map report. We see mails on a daily basis. We see. Yeah, none of us on this call own this particular report nor connectors. So that kind of particular question, Robert, we're gonna have to take that offline and check with our subject matter experts who own that to see what they, and I see there are two people who had given a thumbs up to that. Okay, so yeah, we will take that offline and then I think there'll be a way to convey that information back to you, get that back to you. And we'll check with the organizers of the MEC event, Jen and Scott, for how we can best do that and see what we can do, come up with an answer for that. Apologize, we don't know right now. I've noticed in transport rules that the word regex for the subject or body predicates are stored twice, once for each subject. And body, we frequently need only body predicates, and we have a few whoppers that are nearing the AKA limit. Any hopes of having just a body rule so we're not wasting half the rule size on something we don't need? I see. The regex subject or body, anything that just body only. Ron, does that sound like something you're familiar with and have heard before? Or do you want to take that back as something to consider?
Yeah, I responded in the thread, but thanks, Donald. I think that's really great feedback that I'll bring back to our engineers, and we could reevaluate how we could kind of maximize the size limit for y'all. But thank you for pointing that out.
Okay, yeah, I need to kind of catch up here on what you guys are all saying in the chat. Thanks, Donald. Feedback, thank you. And oh, changes planned for custom disclaimers, out of office, autoresponders, third-party product disclaimer. Okay.
I answered that one, Kevin.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you. Okay, and then Thorsten. Okay, so we continue to not recommend sending on-prem to EOP to internet and do on-prem to.
I was just
Instead
replying to
do
that one.
Oh, okay. Okay, great.
Thorsten, we absolutely recommend sending and relaying through EOP, Exchange Online, from on-premise service. I was answering specifically around the limits, or SLA as you put it, to say that there are no documented limits, and that anti-spam team works off of abuse of those routes. So we can't tell you can only send, a certain amount of emails per license that you have for on-premise. But we know the rules such as not sending marketing mail and bulk mail and things like that are there to cover, so we can flag tenants as abusive or bad senders for that route, similar to how we do for mailboxes hosted on in Exchange Online.
Thanks, Sean. Alex asked the question, is there a way to look further into bounce messages from EOP? I'm not certain if this is the right place to ask this specific area I keep seeing. Yeah, so if you're having a specific problem that you need, some troubleshooting on that's happening like right now, recommendation is to raise a support ticket for it. That being said, in this particular case, this error indicates that this is an anti-spam generated error, AS. That's a little tip for y'all in the NDRs or in the errors. The AS prefix followed by number, or sometimes I think sometimes AS appears outside of the parentheses and then you'll have a number in between. But anytime you see AS, that's going to indicate that it's an anti-spam error that's being thrown, typically from a policy of some kind, or that too many sender is blocked. In this case, too many recipients. That's interesting. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Again, recommend you open a support ticket, and the folks who handle anti-spam support will either be able to help you with that, or they'll raise that to an escalation for anti-spam to the anti-spam engineers who will help specifically on that. Rodrigo had a question on ETRs. Did you want to take that one, Yaron?
Yeah, I could respond in the thread.
Okay. Thorsten has some more follow-up here. I kind of was missing the last part of that thread. So specific guidance.
Yeah, so we just, Thorsten, we just don't have specific guidance. The same way as, you know, your restaurant down the street doesn't have specific guidance on how many hamburgers you can order. But we're in the business of allowing our customers to relay through this path, and we have customers sending hundreds of thousands and millions of emails through this path every day. But we just don't have a limit. So if you need some sort of guidance, the only thing I can say is we allow a mailbox to send 10,000 messages per day, or to 10,000 recipients per day on premise. So if the customers limits their mailboxes on premise to sending that amount, then, you know, they can feel less worried, or less of a risk of that being shut down.
Yeah, I think there, if I remember right, some of you might remember Terry Zink, who used to be part of the Exchange Online Protection team. We used to work with Terry, and I think I seem to remember Terry writing a pretty good article on recommendations for sending high volume mail through Exchange Online or something like that. There is an article out there that that does talk about some best practices, you know, that wouldn't necessarily prevent issues, but I think Sean's guidance is probably the most salient. You know, if you're targeting those two, you know, targeting the 10,000 recipients per day limit for a particular mail user mailbox, and not sending more than 30 messages per minute, then then that's a really good target to go for. But I was seeing if I could find that article that I think Terry had written a long time ago, but I can't find it. I'll continue to look for it and see if I can post it in the chat, because it has some other best practices for like how to not get detected, you know, as a bad sender, for example. You know, recommendations for how to best do that. But okay, yeah, Alex. Yeah, yeah, I would just get that over to the Microsoft support team, and you know, and you know, I would probably just say they'll pretty quickly, probably, you know, after like, you know, a round of information sharing, probably pretty quickly, you know, ask to consider escalating if they can't help. But there's some really good folks on the anti-spam team who should be able to help with that, since it is an anti-spam error, and it shouldn't have been come back as a bounce message. Actually, it should, since it's 400 level error. But if it did, that's kind of a little unusual and should be addressed as well. But they should be able to help you out with that. Good luck with that. The auto forwarding settings used to be on remote domain settings, and
I
that
can
was
speak to that, Kevin.
Yes, yes, you can. Thank you.
So Rodrigo actually had this conversation last week with the team as to whether or not we want to scrap remote domain and try and add that functionality to the anti-spam feature. At this point, we don't, and specifically because remote domain governs just the recipient. It's not ideal to have the two features separate like that. So we are considering that, but at this point, we're gonna keep the two different features, where remote domain allows you to block auto forwarding to that specific remote domain and recipient, and then anti-spam how to block forwarding in general, and they have their own their own controls there.
Oh, sorry, I'm typing away while my mic is on. I apologize. Thanks, Sean. I'm actually just kind of typing a response to the question about clearing messages from the queues. So we don't have a way to do that right now. We are looking at an option to give admins the ability to resubmit queue messages, probably not to delete queued messages. For us to do that, to give admins that ability kind of in a full scale feature, we see that we would need to do some kind of a workflow approval process to, basically if a rogue, admin got a hold of, your credentials and decided to go up and delete a whole bunch of your mail, that's not a good thing. So a bunch of your queued mail, that's not necessarily a good thing. And so in order for us to do that right, we'd have to provide a lot more around the kind of a workflow approval process to do so. That being said, by giving you the ability to resubmit queued messages, one could then say create a transport rule that could reevaluate the messages potentially, depending on how exactly we do it. So we're looking at that as to address both the request that sometimes customers ask: is there a way to resubmit queued messages, or is there a way to remove queued messages, due to some rogue auto mailer or some dev messing something up? So we're looking at it, and hopefully mid next year we should be able to at least provide information on it, if not some capability for that, but nothing confirmed quite yet. Let's see, we got some other questions here. Where did we leave off? Is there a way to drop messages from the queues? Here's the hit limits. What is the best option to receive emails when they are routed from third-party vendor without setting spam confidence level SCP to -1? When they are routed from third-party vendor without setting spam confidence level to 1.
I can kind of clarify. So we use third-party solutions for all external emails coming to our organization, and then we route the email from that to Microsoft Online. And we want to take advantage of the Microsoft Online services, for anti-spam and all those services. So we're currently routing those emails. So they're getting checked from our vendor Cisco, and they're checking for spam, and also as they come into Microsoft, they're getting checked as well. But some legit emails are getting flagged as a spam.
Okay, getting flagged as spam by EOP.
Yeah, even though they're legit emails, and that's
if it's specifically because it's coming from the third party, and they're for instance not passing SPF and things like that, there is a skip check or skip list, something like that feature that anti-spam offers, so that they aren't checking the IP for Cisco, but they're checking the IP before that, so that it can pass SPF and things like that. So if that's the reason why they're being flagged as spam, then there is a feature related to that. That's anti-spam feature. So you'll just have to check and look out for that. Skip list, I think it might be called.
skip list.
Yeah. And other than that, that would be in kind of anti-spam's ballpark of why they're being marked as spam, and you have that problem in the first place.
Okay. Yeah. Cisco's recommendation is to set it -1, so we don't have to check anything from Microsoft.
Well, then you'd be missing all of our wonderful engines. So
exactly. That's why we're we want to have have a better protection, because we do see some are getting caught for legit emails. They're actually spam or things like that. So
Yeah, so I think something that you could do yourself is to check the headers of the messages that are being marked as spam, and check if you see, for instance, SPF or DKIM, things like that, or DMARC failing.
it is SPF that's failing. That's why they're
Perfect.
getting,
That's it.
yeah.
Yeah. Then it's definitely the skip list feature.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate that. Let's see. Archive mailboxes to EXO. So Tim had a question about migrating the Exchange 2013 archive mailboxes over to EXO. Yeah, we don't transport. We don't own archiving. That would be a good question for the EOP compliance team. I'm not really sure about that one. If anyone here on the call has any experience with that or knowledge about that, yeah, if you wouldn't mind maybe replying to Tim with some pointers, that would be great. Yeah, Tim, you're right. It's not the right group. We don't own that. So, but the compliance, or I guess the purview team now, as they have branded themselves, might be able to help with that. See. Rodrigo. Yeah.
For Vince's question, Vince, it sounds like you have an attribution issue where somehow you're trying to send out directly using MX, but also must have a connector set up for EOP, and so it's being attributed incorrectly there. So there just needs to be some debugging to understand, what the expectation is and why that's not being met, with regard to some sort of connector that's picking up that shouldn't.
Let's see. Peter had a question. Any plans to make new address rewrite entry available online, or is there any way of changing this from an address for emails from a specific address? Sean, this sounds like
Yeah, no, we don't have any plans to kind of add this. We've worked specifically on supporting aliases now moving forward, but rewriting from addresses, basically we do all of our validation to make sure that message is being sent from the correct from address, and so we're not looking to try and expand behavior that would kind of undermine our validations there.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. Good to have your expertise here on the call. It's obviously come in handy quite several times. So thank you.
Well, they asked for experts and couldn't find any, so they invited me.
You're the next best thing. So on the question of DL support within ETRs, I think as a DL as a recipient, I think you've already kind of seen that, and I think you replied, yeah, we'll take a look at that. You understand? So you got the distinction there, right?
Yep, the option that they can use is you could use the is member of. option. So they could put you could do is member of that DL as a solution for their problem.
I'm going to counter that and say that's not exactly all. That won't solve all problems. It could solve some problem, but I don't think that's going to solve all issues. But I'll have to go double check that myself because I ran into the same thing recently, and I was like, But thank you for that. And if others can chime in if they've had success using that as a workaround for what they're trying to accomplish. But whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, if you feel like it can't be done, just provide some details on exactly how you're thinking about the scenario, and then we can kind of take a look and see, either come up with the way to use is member of that might accomplish that, or take it into consideration for as a future requirement that folks have. Vince has, in reference to the archive question. Okay. I'm going to let that one slide because I think that's just trying to help out. So that's great. A recipient address contains words. Andy says, or recipient address contains words.
Sorry, Kevin. I was just throwing that in there for the DL. That's how you can get around that.
Oh, that's great, Andy. Yeah, the recipient address contains words. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Awesome. Thank you, Andy. Really appreciate that. Indeed. More than one thumbs up for Andy on that one. That's great. Thank you. That will solve my problem too. When we have a termination, we set the max message size to 0 KB so that they don't send. Yeah, Hail Mary is their last missive. Is this the best way to kill outbound email immediately? When we created the customizable max message size, that was how I considered making 0 KB available for this type of scenario. I also considered the flip side is like, if you set it to 0 KB and you didn't mean to, now that person isn't going to be able to send mail. But is this the best way to kill it? It's one option. I'm not sure if it's the best way. Removing their license, obviously is another way. I think that takes effect pretty darn quickly. So I would probably, remove their license, set this to 0 KB. Yeah, one of those two or both. There was something about immediately. Oh yeah, that was it. Okay, that didn't work. Tried that. Okay. That was, but not foolproof in terms of defining the scope. So Andy's great idea, not foolproof in terms of defining the scope. Not foolproof, true, but still probably pretty good. I guess fastest rather than best due to ETR 1 hour delay. Oh, I see. So Tim, you had said to do that for an ETR. Yeah, yeah. I mean, an ETR is one way to do that. I see. I thought you said on the mailbox. So yeah, on the mailbox itself, you can set the max message size. And if I remember right, I think it can be set to 0 KB for max message size. So that would be one way. But I think that the license, removing a license, I think is faster than an ETR sync. I think removing the license for that particular mailbox, that takes effect pretty quickly. So I probably would recommend that. All right. How are we doing on time? So I think we are close to the end. How long is this for? I don't want to. 12:50. Oh, so we've got 7 more minutes. Okay, great. So yeah, just as a as a time check here for those of you who are moving on to another session. I think the next session that I see here that I was looking to attend to was the troubleshooting tools and how to use them. At 1 p.m. was the one I had for me, but I think 1 p.m. Pacific time is time for other folks. So great. If this is XO, then once you disable the account, mail access should be disabled quickly with conditional access evaluation. Disable the account, mail access should be disabled quickly. Great. Yep, I think so. ETRs use a reduced form of regexes. What's the story here? This occasionally gets in the way, and I've had to resort to creating several separate regexes. Regexes is some people like to say, to work around it. A reduced form of regexes. What's the story here? Yaron, do you have any comments or thoughts on Donald's question about ETR's use of reduced form of regexes?
I'll take this back and I'll take this feedback back and loop my engineers in, but thanks again, Donald, for great feedback.
It occasionally gets in the way. I've had to resort to creating several separate regexes to work around it. Yeah, so basically it just sounds like maybe right now it's a little bit limited in the way that it's available. So yeah, that would be good. Get for the team to consider. Donald, if you have any particular examples of cases that you weren't able to do effectively, that you had to work around one way or the other. If you want to share those in the chat, and then we'll have that transcript and we can use that as part of the investigation to consider what more we might be able to do in the future. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I wasn't following. Sorry, I just want to say I wasn't following whether or not the implementation of regex does not include all regex functionality, or how regex is applied to what fields is not complete.
It's that the regex implementation doesn't include everything. There are limits on how you can use quantifiers to specify repeats of a pattern. And I would have to go digging through my transport rules to find an example of that. So that's not practical given the short amount of time we have left.
Fair point, Donald. But thank you for the explication on that. I'm sure that we'll see what some of those limitations are.
I'm suspecting it probably has to do with the efficiency of the regex engine and making it, since it's in a transport critical path, you don't want it, going compute bound like regex engines can do if you abuse them.
Yeah, I suspect you're right. I also know that there are some limitations on, if there's anything that has to be pulled or looked up, in directory, that there is some caution about doing so in the service in particular. So there may be some limitations imposed, to not utilize resources in the service context for that. Since we're not Exchange on-prem folks, I can't really say so much on the on-prem side, but I do know that in this service that there are some things available on-prem that you can do in terms of querying and whatnot that you can't do in the service because of that resource utilization that in the service is just at the scale we're talking about. We've got to limit it. Tony Redmond and I had a conversation about one such issue. I can't recall exactly what it was, but it was an ETR evaluation, and the crux of it is that we, couldn't expand it in the service, so it was limited and due to, just trying to limit the impact on the resources for AD lookups for that particular type of a query. So probably along those lines, fundamentally. All right. Got a couple minutes left here. Anybody else with any other questions? any feedback if there's something that you don't like in the service, or from a mail flow perspective, like, hey, sure be nice if we can do this, if instead, this is a good example, Donald, giving us some feedback on that, so that's great. We're totally interested in anything that we can help to improve your lives and the lives of any customers that you support, whether it be in the EAC or capabilities for mail flow. In transport, we appreciate your participation and all your feedback and questions. And again, thanks everyone on the call from our team for participating and being here. I really appreciate it. And
if you think of something later, we are looking at the feedback portal / feedback hub.
Do you have the link for that?
That is something that I thought about right after. I know in the aliases blog post, there's a link to some of the pertinent items, so I can quickly go search for that and post that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great point. What I don't know what we call it nowadays, Sean, do you? But it's the kind of replacement for user voice.
Yes, it's either feedback hub
voice.
or portal.
Feedback hub or feedback portal. Yeah, so hopefully you folks know about that, and that is definitely on our side of things. The information is coming to us and whatnot. So we appreciate any feedback that gets put up there as well, and that's a great place to do it. The more people that vote on something, the more we can take that and influence the decision to do something or not. So yeah, that's great. Thank you, Sean. Oh, there you go. Thank you. That's
feedback
awesome.
portal. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. Well, I think that's officially the end of our Ask the Expert session today. So thank you very much. I think, do we have another one coming up later this week? I don't see it. Well, again, thank you everyone for participating, for joining, asking questions, contributing to answers. Great to be part of the Exchange and Exchange Online community. Thank you guys so much. And again, thanks my good friends and colleagues on the team, Erica, Sean, Yaron, Ian. Really appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks, Donald. Bye now.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.